Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk. I'm Gordy Deal, and we're joined today by Rutgers soccer coach Bob Reasso. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Gordy, how are you?
Okay. This team for you coming into the fall, first of all, your 19th season. A lot of guys are back, and a lot of people are saying some very good things about this particular program. Your thoughts going into this season?
We do return a lot of players. We have 8 seniors. Last year we had a very young strike force with 2 freshmen up front, 2 freshmen in the midfield. So we're hoping with quality spring ball, which they had, and a chance to mature a little bit, that we'll have a better product on the field this year.
Talk about maybe some of the new players who are coming in that people might not be that familiar with.
Well, I think probably anybody in New Jersey is familiar with some of the guys. We have Guy Abrahamson coming in, who was the Star Ledger 2-time Player of the Year. A wonderful central midfielder. Mike Walsh, Billy Walsh's brother, who's playing for the Metro Stars, is a very talented attacking center midfielder. Todd Mosier, who won 3 state championships at Scotch Plains in 4 years from Tom Brzezinski's program. He's been a midfielder. We're going to probably project him as a center back. Ricky Zinter, an outstanding goalkeeper from New York. Mark Telez, another striker from upstate New York. So we have a lot of good quality young people, and I'm forgetting Scott Conway. John Conway, our biggest goalkeeper of the year, his brother's coming in and going to join our goalkeeper course.
A little more all in the family-ish.
Yeah, it's okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's okay.
How about some of the returning names?
I think you have to start with, of course, our captain, Simon Forrester, a center back who's had a great career for us and is a tremendous leader. John Conway, who I just mentioned, who has been a Big East goalkeeper of the year the last 2 years, and a tremendous physical stature. He's 6'5", 210 pounds, and probably one of the top 3 goalkeepers in the country. Brian Piesner, a tremendous left-footed attacking player who can take people on and beat them. Matty Friel, who can play anywhere for us. Christian Suarez, who can play anywhere for us. Jimmy Pavlaitis, a senior who we've played traditionally at left back. We're going to try and get him to right back this year. So Vinny Almeida, another veteran. So besides a young group that broke in last year, those are the real veterans of the team, and the senior leadership they're going to have to count on.
What will you point to as strengths?
I think this is a very balanced team. Everybody always says we're an outstanding defensive team, and I think we will do that again this year. And defending is a team thing and not just the guys in the back 4. But, we should have a good quality back 4. David Boudelier, somebody I didn't mention, who was a tremendous impact player for us, a freshman last year. Dustin Shepard, who has played up front and played wide, will probably play more of a defensive center midfield role for us this year. You have Christopher Stewart, who's a Canadian international, who played for us, will play wide, and Dennis Ludwig up front. So we're very well balanced, and I think we can defend as a team and individually. I think we have quality midfield play. Our midfield is quite young still. And I think we, hopefully, to get the maturity from last year, I think we have guys who can score goals.
And you've always got, you mentioned Dustin Shepard, guy out of Hillsborough. You've always kind of kept that New Jersey flavor. It seems like maybe in the Middlesex, Somerset, Morris region, though, there seems to be maybe a little more than usual. J.D. Martin out of North Brunswick,
Right.
a couple of guys from Pingree, Chatham.
Well, we've always been very fortunate in New Jersey. We know we're sometimes, unfortunately, teams at Rutgers struggle a little bit to keep them. We've always been able to keep our share of New Jersey boys, and from down in South Jersey all the way up to North Jersey, we bring in quality players. But this area's always been particularly good, going back to Benny Letson's days and a lot of other Central Jersey boys, and now with JD and Dustin, and there's some great recruits coming out next year from this area too.
Led into my next question: why is it that the soccer team can seem to keep New Jersey kids home, but you look on the football roster, it always seems to be a struggle?
I think it's a little different in football because, if you're still a soccer parent, if you want to see your son play, you're going to need to come to the games and stay fairly local. As a football player, you can, be at Miami or be at Notre Dame and see your son play every week on television. I think we're going to turn a corner. I think Terry Shea's guys can get it done. It's going to take them a little bit longer because they lost that first year of recruiting, basically, and mostly everybody redshirts that first year of recruiting. Bob Mulcahy and Joe Quinlan's influence cannot be discounted. They're wonderful, passionate men who their motivation is carried through the whole program. I think Kevin Bannon's getting it done now. He's bringing in big-time players, and he'll be very successful. So I'm hoping that, all the sports are going to turn a corner, because that's only going to help us. Sometimes I think the lack of success in football and basketball has hurt us, not so much in New Jersey recruiting, but has hurt us when we get out-of-state recruiting.
What does it mean specifically? Football stadium at times is maybe half full on these glorious Saturday afternoon games for football. What is the impact that it has on soccer? Or now, what is the impact that a solid men's basketball program is having for you, for soccer?
I think it's the ESPN factor. Kids watch SportsCenter. And I mean, a classic example, Ian Checchio, who came in, was a 4-year starter for us. He was a starter in basketball, baseball, and soccer for 4 years. We recruited against Notre Dame and Penn State, and we never really recruited against their soccer programs. We recruited against the mystique of Penn State and Notre Dame football, because all his buddies say, well, how can you pick Rutgers, when you could go to Notre Dame and Penn State? So I really think that, if we get on SportsCenter, because everybody lives by that, and we win and we're successful, I think it's going to be, wonderful for not only us, but the whole university.
Looking at the schedule, your first home game is not until September 17th against Boston College. There's at least one date, though, we get to see you before that.
Yeah, on August 21st, we have an international match against a university from Chile, a wonderful team, and that'll kick off at 7 o'clock, and that's really the last time people in the area are going to be able to see us until September 17th, so we're hoping to get a great crowd out that night.
Does this team have a national championship in its future?
Our team and Chilean team.
Potential. Let me say potential. Is it that type of team where you wouldn't be surprised if it made it that far?
I mean, that's our goal every year we get in. I mean, otherwise, why are you playing? If you're not playing to try and win a national championship, why are you playing? I think this is a very, very deep team. It's one of the deepest teams we've ever had. As we told the players, and one of the things we don't know yet is, do we have big game players? We have very, very talented young kids and some talented older guys, but until they win those big games, and they've won a Big East championship and been to the NCAA tournament a couple of times, but until they prove that they're big game players in the big matches, it's still a question mark. I think they have the character, I think they have the ability. Now they have to, prove it on the field.
You are one of maybe the only coach who season after season can look ahead going into the season and think that a national championship is not out of the range of possibility. One of the only coaches at Rutgers. What is that like year after year? Do you feel that's a pressure or a responsibility? Is it?
No.
What is that?
We don't really look at it as pressure. We look at it as excitement. We always put our goals very rarely change. We want to win the Big East regular championship. We want to win the Big East tournament. We want to win the 2 tournaments we're entered in during the year. We want to get to the NCAA tournament, go as far as we possibly can, and that means getting to a Final Four and hopefully win a national championship. We've been close, and maybe how we haven't made it because we lost on penalty kicks and that. I think that's what drives us. I think that's what all our local alums and all our alums, whenever NCAA tournament comes around, they're all there. They're all in the locker room. They're all calling us up. I mean, anybody that's worn our uniform wants to see us do it. So, but I really don't look at that as pressure. I mean, that's excitement. It's like playing in New Jersey. When you come to our stadium, if there's, I always kid our players, if there's 7,000 people in the stands, there's at least, 1,000 coaches in the stand that know they coach better than I do. And there's at least, 3,000 players in the stand that know they,
right.
They play better than my players. And for that matter, there's 100 referees who know they're refereeing better than a guy in the park. But that's not pressure. That's what's exciting. You want to play in an environment where people care, people understand the game, and I think our fans are the most knowledgeable fans in the country. 19
years ago, when you agreed to take this job from a sloppy Rutgers soccer program, might not have even been a program at the time, maybe just a team. Did you ever think that this would be it, that you'd be talking about, a national championship or a program of this caliber or something that has grown like an octopus with all these, different arms? Was it a vision?
It has to be a vision. I mean, we've always joked in our program that, that there's championships to be won and, we're the guys to do it and that we got to go out and get it done. But, you can dream it and, and having lofty dreams is very important. But, I mean, the critical ingredient is making sure you roll up your sleeves every day and you go out and get it done. I think it's exciting. I think that, hopefully people in New Jersey are excited about our schedule and want to come out to our game. Let's face it, if you want to see a game, big-time soccer in New Jersey, beyond what's being played at the Meadowlands, you want to come to Rutgers. And I like that. Any one of our games, you can get there, and there's usually anywhere from 75 to 100 club and high school teams there. So it's kind of like a meeting point for people in New Jersey, and I mean, that's very, very gratifying.
Some may argue that what's being played at the Meadowlands is not exactly big time either. I won't drag you into that, but
I won't go there.
But tell me about the MLS and how it might relate to maybe the average soccer player in New Jersey or across America, who I don't think necessarily aspires to be an MLS player, but may still think that going overseas is the ultimate soccer dream. Am I off base with that? And what does the MLS have to do to change that
I think
perception?
we've noticed a change in our collegiate players with the MLS. I think that they now see that there's a viable alternative for them after they get out. It's getting very, very hard to play in Europe. You know, with the European community, you know, they look at Americans as foreigners. I was kidding with an English coach. You know, if there's no greater allegiance really in the world than England and America, and yet American players can't go play in England, it's very, very difficult. We should stop their coaches from coming over then if that's the way the case is going to be. But I think the young players can dream about playing in Europe. They can dream about playing in the MLS. And I think that's a wonderful thing. It's something we haven't had here, and it's great motivation. And I think we've noticed a different kind of commitment over our players in the last 4 years since the MLS has been around.
What's different about the MLS than, say, the old NASL that folded back in the early 80s?
Well, I think in the early 70s and 80s when the NASL was really going on, you had to base the league totally on foreigners almost because we just didn't have the pool of American players. Now, as Bruce has proven with the national team, you know, our American players are good. You know, we can field a great national team, and we can, you know, a growing national team, maybe they're not a great team, but the MLS is becoming a pretty good conference. And I think that what you're seeing as our national team is going out and being successful, they're being successful because they're getting a steady game in the MLS. I think still to my liking, the level of play in the MLS is a little too slow. I know it's played in the summer, and you know, we have a lot of Latinos in the league who want to play at a slower pace. But, you know, most times when there's no pressure on the ball, instead of playing quicker and attacking, teams have a tendency to, you know, to play back and square and squander the time they have. You know, I think when the league gets better, there's going to be more pressure on the ball, making teams play quicker, which in essence will score more goal scoring chances and make the game more exciting.
I think every year it seems it comes up when maybe a local media market is critical of fan attendance at MLS games. There's always somebody who suggests, well, let's make the goals bigger so that there more goals are scored. Let's eliminate the offsides rule. And you've heard a lot more probably explanations than I have. But in order to draw the American fan in, is there a need for that? Would you ever
I don't
agree to
think
something
so.
like that?
I think that the American fan, I mean, you can call the American fan who watches basketball an American fan who watches football a soccer fan, you know, potential soccer fan, but they're not. I mean, most of the guys that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s didn't grow up on our game, especially the people in the media. They're afraid that they don't know anything about it, so they're first of all going to take shots at it. I think there's such a core of young people that have grown up on the game that they love the game. You will notice, though, and if there ever was a rule change that I would not be, and it almost sounds like heresy, that I would not be against, is in the Women's World Cup, except for the final, where it was very, very tense, they score more goals. And they score more goals because the average goalkeeper is 5'9", 5'10", and they struggle to cover the corners. The average goalkeeper probably in professional soccer or professional football right now, 6'2", 6'3". Our goalkeeper's 6'5". They don't struggle to get the corners. And the goals were established when the average size of a male was probably 5'9", 5'10". So, you know, I'm not totally against it. It would take a lot of study, and I want to see study. But if you made those goals a foot bigger all the way around, everything you see hitting the wood right now would be a goal. And I know every game you see guys hitting the wood, so it sounds like heresy. I don't want to jump directly into it, but it may be something. You know, the FIFA is always very reticent to change rules, whereas in the NBA, you know, they're always willing to tinker to make their game better. I think that's just an American philosophy. But I would like to see a study done in some league in the world that if they made the goals a little bit bigger, you know, would there be more goals, and then see what happens afterwards.
Although I think Americans are probably the only fans on a world stage that would be maybe interested in that, because they don't have trouble drawing fans in Europe or Latin America.
But there's still not enough goals there. You know, there's still, you know, still a lot of nil-nil games. It doesn't mean a nil-nil game can't be a good game. I mean, I read an article recently where they gave you the scores for a weekend in football and the scores for a weekend in American football, excuse me, and in soccer. But they switched them, and they only gave the football scores, you know, 1 point for a touchdown, rather than giving them 7 points. You know, the scores were 3-1, 5-4, you know, 4-3, 3-2. I mean, it didn't look so, you know, out of kilter, but, you know, a 3-1 game in football is 21-7, you know, and it just looks bigger. But there's still only been 4 touchdowns. So I think that I like our game. I think that, you know, when you're young and you're a college coach or a young coach, you're always on a crusade to make everybody love your game. Hey, there's enough people to love our game now. There's enough people to fill the stadium. Sometimes I think our marketing, the MLS, has not really hit home with the American fan. I know we spend a lot of money, and I'm not knocking this either, to woo the Latinos to the grounds, which is great. But they're going to come anyway. I think they need to spend a little bit more money, wooing the East Brunswick teams, youth teams, and getting those teams there, because they're the real core of soccer fans in America.
What, you have plans for yourself in the MLS one day? 18 years on the collegiate level, going into number 19. I know there surely have been offers or considerations on your part. What about that?
I've talked to a couple of MLS clubs, and you never say no to anything. I love my job. I love coaching at Rutgers University. I think any time anybody talks to you, you have to listen, because I have a family, and you want to take care of them. But I also have a 7- and 5-year-old. And I love living in New Jersey, and I don't care what pro club you go to, sooner or later you're going to get fired. So you're gonna have to bounce around, and I would always listen, but I would always have to weigh in my family, and my family is the most important thing to me. And plus, I love Rutgers. I love rearing the young men. I think you have a different feeling and camaraderie with a collegiate player, because you're helping them grow a little bit more than you do with a pro. But there's also the urge, since a lot of my peers now are in the game, Ziggy Smith, Bobby Bradley, even though Bruce just left, those are the guys I coached against for a number of years, and my teams have coached against. So there's always a lure there, but I'm a patient man too. I want to do my job now and worry about Rutgers University.
It's almost unheard of. Well, you look at the ranks of college football or college basketball, of a coach even staying as long as you've stayed at one school. Was there ever any thoughts about going elsewhere in terms of another school?
I'm a Jersey boy, and it's and I like it here. I think that there are certain schools that might entice me in the country if they ever opened up, but they're very few. I mean, when you compare the quality of life, I'm fortunate enough to live in Spring Lake. When you compare the quality of life that my family has, and you compare it with other places in the country, and the friends I have at Rutgers and the teams I have, there's not much more I want. I mean, you always want more for your program, but I'm very content where I am.
Women's World Cup, and the U.S. team winning it all. What has that done? What has that done for the game? So even on the men's side?
I don't know if it's going to really impact the men's game, and I think it's been wonderful. I took my family and my daughter, because I have a 7-year-old daughter, to see the game in Boston. She had a ball, and we just had a ball, and I really enjoyed the whole environment. I enjoyed the final. I thought it was very exciting. I think they're going to struggle to develop a women's professional league, unfortunately, because we're still struggling to develop a men's professional league. Depends on what level they want to establish it at. If they're willing to fill 4,000 and 5,000 seat stadiums, I think they can do it now. I'd like to see them be successful. The carry over to the men's game, I think you're talking apples and oranges, really. They're different sports. At the same time, you think about it, our women's collegiate league, okay, because of gender equity and all, may be the best professional league in the world, and that's why our team is so much better. Most of the countries don't take women's soccer very seriously. They're starting to now. I thought it was wonderful. I was very excited. I jumped out of my seat when they scored the goals and the penalty kicks in the final. I was very excited. Hopefully they'll come on over and watch men's games as we went over and watched the women's games. So anytime soccer's in the newspaper, anytime soccer's being successful, it's good for the game.
Speaking of national teams, you mentioned a little bit before about Bruce Arena, longtime coach at Virginia, who you've known for a long time and coached against. His particular injection of his coaching attitude into the men's national team has meant what? You've watched a little bit change there.
I'm a big fan of Bruce. I think Bruce is the best man manager in the country. I think he's a great coach. I think he's somebody, and it sounds crazy because he won a lot of championships in Virginia, who's actually gotten better in the collegiate ranks, as Bobby Bradley has, because you don't have all the NCAA things to think about and everything else you have to do. You just can focus in on the game. I think they both become wonderful managers. I particularly like what he did in the Confederation Cup, where he had the courage to, because you're playing, it's like a collegiate match, but it's a collegiate tournament, because you got a lot of experience in college where you play Wednesday, you play Friday, you play Sunday. And he knew darn well, playing on that level with that kind of intensity, there's no way his starters are going to be able to play all 3 games. So he showed a great deal of courage after playing, I believe it was Brazil, to throw out, not a reserve team, but his second group out against Germany. But because he has confidence in them, because they believe that he believes in them, they went out and put on a wonderful performance. So, and it was beating Mexico in Mexico, the Brazilians couldn't do it. It's a very tough task. So I see great things happening for them. Like I said, I'm a great fan of what Bruce is doing, and I have tremendous respect for him.
Is it Or say, are the Americans far away from winning a men's World Cup?
I think we're still a bit away.
Or is it arrogant of me even to ask the question that way?
No. You know, I don't think we're near as bad as we looked in '98. But you think about it, France had not qualified for the two previous World Cups. England didn't qualify for the World Cup before that. So it's all kind of relative. Qualifying for the World Cup is very, very difficult. I think that saying that we're going to win it in 2010 might be optimistic. I'm more inclined to say we'll be fighting. We'll be competitive enough to fight for a World Championship in 2010. And it depends on this next group coming through. Whether we're going to win it or not, you need luck. You need to stay healthy. You need a totally different kind of world-class group to come through. But if we stay on this tack that we're on now, and the young players keep developing, the MLS will be 15 years old by then. That's steady gains for a lot of players, and I think Bruce is the kind of man that can lead us on to that.
It's had to have been fun and a source of pride for you to watch some of your guys move on to that type of level and now be playing in the MLS. You keep in contact with any of those guys, and do you monitor them on a frequent basis?
Yeah, we talk to them all the time. I mean, they're good guys. They're very loyal. As you all know, having been a former Scarlet Knight, they're, our guys are very loyal. They all come back. We talk to them a real lot. I just played golf with Lino DiQualo and Mike Miller last week, and great guys. One of the nice things about coaching at Rutgers is we're a very homogeneous group. Most of the time we're 70 to 80% Jersey boys, so the guys settle in the area, and for me, that's one of the most gratifying things when they come back to the alumni game, and now their little sons are running around playing soccer next to them and all, and watch them mature into being great professionals, whatever their field is very gratifying.
How has it differed for you since starting the program in terms of the actual recruiting process? From, say, a 1980 to now a 1999. I mean, you're all over the world map now, it seems, at times. Well,
our recruiting's gotten much more intense. I was telling somebody the other day, when I first got here, you get your team in line, and then, around September 15th, you start calling players, maybe bring some guys on campus early, but most of the time we brought them on for basketball games, and then you sign them in February. Now you're allowed to call them July 1. I called 25 kids on July 1. By July 8th, I had made 3 home visits. So in big-time collegiate soccer, the whole thing is accelerated. We want answers in October now. They still sign in February, but we want answers in October. It's gotten much more intense. I don't mind it because I enjoy recruiting, but yeah, things have changed dramatically there.
Is it much harder?
Not for us, really. I mean, we're going to, if Jersey is good, and we went through a period for about 3 years where, not that we weren't putting out good players, we weren't putting out great players, the really elite players. So we had to travel around the country more and even overseas to get what we want, because our first choice is to answer our needs in New Jersey. Now, last year's recruiting class and this most recent recruiting class that's just coming in this year is marvelous. And next year's recruiting class is marvelous. So we can make our living basically off New Jersey players.
That's always kind of been your philosophy, I think.
If you can, yeah. You know them. There's no hidden baggage. You know what you're getting,
What is it like out of New Jersey for players who may be recruiting Rutgers and saying, hey, I live in California, but I'd love to come to the East Coast? I mean, you field a bunch of those calls as well?
Yeah, we get over 1,000 letters a year and videotapes and everything, kids that want to come to Rutgers. We're a hot team. We're considered, and this hopefully doesn't sound boastful, but I think it's common knowledge that we're considered one of the top 10 programs in America, some years in the top 5. And because of Alexi and Peter Vermees and Hamisi Amani Dub and the guys that have gone off and been successful, and I think we've been on television enough and people like our style of play, the kids in, we let some kids in California, Idaho, Florida that want to come to Rutgers, and I think that's gratifying, and I mean, we'd be happy to have them, but we always want to, if we can solve our needs in New Jersey, that's our first choice.
Is the game or the player getting better?
Yeah, I think on a whole that the entry-level player is bigger, faster, stronger, more technical. Sometimes I worry a little bit that they're not as I don't want to say it's great, but it's hard to find a Lino DiQualo or Peter Vermees, guys that were that cunning and had that much flair. But now we're growing up in a middle-class suburbia sports where mom and dads do a lot of coaching, rather than growing up as those guys did, where they grew up playing on the blocks and playing on the streets and playing win or stay on. If you're going to be successful, and we still do a lot of it in our program, players need to play in environments like they do in basketball, where you go down the blocks every night, you play win or stay on, and the strong survive. No coaches, no fouls, no referees, and hopefully that's starting again in New Jersey.
Do you have a biggest complaint about what you're seeing in players today? Or there's some that just focus on speed, or some that just think goal scoring is the best? Or?
No, I think my biggest complaint is that I'm not a real big fan of playing under 17, under 18, under 19, under 20 championships. I think that you can play to a national championship in that age group, but I think your normal game should be under 23 or open. You know, because the rest of the world, when you reach 16, 17-year-old, you're getting kicked by men in practice. You know, you've got 28-year-old pros. Here, you know, our guys, you know, are still playing in their own age group. And I think that's a major problem, because then all of a sudden they get thrown into a real match, like a collegiate match, and guys are bigger and stronger and think quicker. I think they struggle a little bit. And if they're ever going to be a pro, they need to play as soon as they possibly can against mature players.
As we wrap up here, take me through this season. We're looking at, it's almost like a block schedule. We have a series of away games, then a series of home games, then you finish up with another 4 games on the road and 2 at home. It's kind of it's a season of streaks, home and on the road.
Hopefully be a lot of winning streaks. The Big East does us a lot of our schedule, so we don't have a lot to say. I mean, they set up going to St. John's early, which we'd rather not do. But then we want to go to a big tournament. We're going down to Duke to play Duke and NC State. Then we kind of get into a rhythm of playing, you know, a lot of home games, including our tournament, where we have Portland and South Carolina coming in to play us in St. John's, 2 great teams. And then the Big East, not that they've done us an injustice, but they've given us a rough task, going away to Connecticut, then flying out to Pittsburgh and Notre Dame, 2 really tough places to play on the next weekend, and then flying back out to West Virginia the following weekend. That's a very arduous task for any team, and you know, but then we end up with a couple good home games. So I mean, it doesn't matter. You know, that's your task. Let's just go out and play them. So.
Rutgers soccer's home opener, Friday, September 17th against Boston College. It's an 8 o'clock start. Then you have a series of home games there. You can catch the team on August 21st against a university from Chile. Best of luck in 1999.
Thank you very much, Woody.
Season number 19 coming up for Rutgers soccer coach Bob Reasso. Thanks for joining us in Sports Talk. I'm Gordy Deal.